Chapter 397. 3 days later, the sun was shining, there were no clouds in the sky, the warm sun poured down from the ninth heaven, it was full of vitality, and Mariewa in the midst of the smoke was like a fairyland on earth. Of course, if one ignored the ugliness inside, it was indeed a paradise. Otherwise, it would be hell on earth for monsters in human skin. Louis South, Saint, your afternoon tea. On the balcony, Dustless was lying leisurely on a couch, bathing in the sun, and beside him was a girl dressed in a black maid costume. Opening his eyes, he lazily took the afternoon tea. Dustless smiled and drank it, then closed his eyes again and handed the delicate teacup in his hand to the beautiful little maid. Looking closely, it was the future Empress Boa Hancock. Monitor the movements of Gorosei, and Marine's high-level officials. Once Admiral Kong leaves Mariewa, tell me immediately. Closing his eyes again, Dustless waved his hand to signal Hancock to leave, and then enjoyed the afternoon sun bath alone. He looked leisurely, and his gentle little face was full of tranquility, which was the opposite of those celestial dragons who were easily irritable. There is an essential gap. Yes, Lord Louis South, Saint. Hancock nodded and turned away obediently, her eyes flashed, and she disappeared in the sun with elegant steps. Now she is Dustless's personal maid and an intelligence officer responsible for monitoring Gorosei, and Marine. She thought that after Dustless caught her, it must be inhumane torture and humiliation, because celestial dragons are so violent and ferocious, and slaves are their punching bags. However, to Hancock's surprise, Dustless did not torture her, but treated her with courtesy, taught her a lot of physical skills, and did not put a collar on her again. She became a servant-like existence. That guy, clenching her fists, Hancock rolled her eyes, still with a little fear. She thought that Dustless was a different kind of existence and would let her go safely, but he was beaten to hell by a sentence a day ago. You are my unique slave. You will not get any redemption. Don't try to escape. No one will save you. If you run away, I will order the Marine headquarters to destroy your hometown. Anyway, the pirates there are rampant. Launching the demon slaughtering order is also a form of justice for the heavens. Her mind was in a trance as she recalled what Dustless had said to her a day ago. Her heart was filled with despair. What a complicated situation. After an unknown amount of time, Dustless suddenly opened his eyes, which were pulsing with an inexplicable luster, and let out an inexplicable sigh. Although he didn't understand the reason why the Marine's high-level personnel were dispatched, he could guess a lot of general content. Today's world is full of heroes and countless big pirates are rising like comets. In the second half of the Grand Line, there is almost no place for Marines to settle down. It is occupied by those ferocious pirates and they even simply occupy it as a camp. The 7 warlords of the sea has not been born yet. Compared with the powerful pirates, the Marine is obviously inadequate. Red Hair Shanks, 100 Beast Kaido, Big as Mom, and Edward Newgate, the world's strongest man, who was also known as Whitebeard, each took a side. These pirates are the strongest people standing on top of the pyramid, and there are countless other pirates who are also rampant in the world. At first, the Marines' advantage was still great. The reason why they are at such a disadvantage is that the words of the pirate King Roger before his death opened the so-called Great Age of Pirates. All the pirates rushed to the sea and the Marines' advantage was suppressed. In the brightly lit room, the smoke was extremely suffocating. Z, is that celestial dragon kid so strong? Fleet Admiral looked at Z, who was wrapped in bandages, and frowned. The defense of armament hockey is well known, especially Z, who is a master of armament hockey. He has reached the point of perfection, but he was injured like this. As you can see, Fleet Admiral. Hearing this, Z just smiled bitterly. His eyes flashed with sadness and self-deprecation. He looked at the future 3 admirals and said, "The new generation replaces the old generation. We are all over 50 years old and have reached the age of retirement. The future world belongs to the young people. With a melancholy sigh, Z said helplessly, that kid should be an ability user, similar to Kazara's glinting fruit, but he can also fly and use strange tricks. In short, he is very strong. Recalling the short battle between himself and Dushless, Z said seriously. Although he didn't use his full strength, it can be seen that Dustless absolutely didn't use his full strength. How can Celestial Dragon have such a strong person? It's very rare. I really want to let that kid taste my fist. Hearing this, Garp's eyes flashed with green light. He couldn't wait to fight with Dustless immediately. Shut up, Garp. Fleet Admiral's mouth twitched fiercely. It's not a joke to beat a celestial dragon. Garp's expulsion is just the softest solution. Celestial dragon has existed for hundreds of years. They have rich heritage. They must have secret weapons and other things that we don't know about. The great General Buddha Warring States, who has the title of Wise General, said. The celestial dragon seemed to be in a state of disunity, a group of lazy wastes, but in fact, there are also strange and special existences that do not play cards according to common sense. Since they were able to rule the world, they must have cards that we don't know about. With a wise light in his eyes, Fleet Admiral Buddha Sengoku said rationally. Being able to ride on the head of the whole world for more than 800 years has explained everything. Celestial Dragon has masters in cards, such as the current Dustless. Changing the topic. Celestial Dragon, let Gorosei have a headache. Fleet Admiral shook his head and resolutely interrupted this boring topic. It's best not to get involved in this kind of thing. Whether it's Celestial Dragon or Gorosei, they are not good people. Chapter 398. The atmosphere in the office is oppressive, and the dull atmosphere makes it difficult to breathe. The faces of the high-level Marines present are faintly sad. Even the usually lazy Borsellino, Kizaru, is full of sadness. Boom! Caw caw caw. With a loud bang, the solid desk split into 4 or 5 pieces. Looking up, the initiator is the gloomy Fleet Admiral Kong. Damn One Piece Roger, he left such a big mess even after he died. After an angry roar, Fleet Admiral Kong can only hide his unhappiness in his heart. It's not worthwhile to see a person who has been dead for a few years. In the previous era, pirates and Marines had wins and losses with each other, but since Roger's death and a few words started the so-called Age of Pirates, pirates all over the world have increased greatly, and Marines' advantage is getting weaker and weaker. It's no wonder that Fleet Admiral Kong is so angry. In the end, it's all Roger's fault. Whitebeard, Akagami, and Big Ivmar, including Kaido, these pirates have occupied many islands in the New World, and the islands that symbolize marine flags have become various kinds of skeleton flags. It seems that to ease the tense and depressed atmosphere, the old Vice Admiral Tsuru humorously said. The effect was negligible. All the high-level Marines were exhausted. Since Roger was executed, the number of pirates around the world has skyrocketed. Greed is one of the human nature. Maybe it was a mistake to publicly execute him. Admiral Sengoku's eyes were shining. Roger's words before his death were the nature of human beings, and no one could remain calm when the financial reports piled up like a mountain. It's good to publicly execute Roger and use his death to improve Marines' morale. Roger also used Marine to start the Age of Pirates. Overall, it's a trap for Marine. It doesn't matter. At present, Akagami, Red Hair, Kaido, Big Ivmar, and Whitebeard are sweeping the New World. They are like emperors looking down on the pirates of the New World. If the Marine doesn't make a move, I'm afraid that there will be no place for us to intervene in the New World. Some of the captured countries in the New World are the countries of the world government. As the existence of the highest power, Gorosei, 5 Elder Stars, naturally can't tolerate pirates' wanton behavior. Therefore, the top marine officials were called to Mariewa, hoping that they could come up with a reasonable solution to the problem. There are many contradictions between pirates. In fact, we can take advantage of it and cause them to kill each other. Hearing this, all the Marines' eyes lit up. Admiral Kong and Garp were the same. The Crane was the Marines' great staff officer. Her thinking ability was excellent. She often did things without any loopholes. Her plans rarely had any loopholes. Unlike the Navy, pirates are like a plate of loose sand. There are countless incidents where they fight for gold and silver treasures. In the blink of an eye, 2 days had already passed. His identity has become the supreme celestial dragon. Dustless's tight lifestyle has also become leisurely. Although it is somewhat boring, it is leisurely, and he also experienced the ugly activities belonging to the celestial dragon. As soon as he returned to his villa, Boa Hancock, dressed in a black maid outfit, came uninvited. Luo Isi Nan, Saint, there is a special guest in your room. Staring at the casually dressed Dustless, Hancock's eyes were filled with surprise, but she still respectfully said, "Celestial dragons regard themselves as superior, and all creatures are no different from ants and slaves in their eyes. Celestial dragons who dress like Dustless and are no different from ordinary humans are rare." Special guest. Hearing this, Dustless was stunned and asked suspiciously, "The people in this world are all strangers. The only person he barely knows is the Marine who confronted him a few days ago." Is it possible that? Wu Chen's expression froze. His face was extremely unnatural. Suddenly, he remembered the attributes of this deceptive identity. His heart was filled with a bitter feeling of wanting to cry but having no tears. "She claims to be your fiancé." Staring at Dustless, whose face changed greatly, Hancock said seriously. Dustless's fiancé, who he has never met, is also a celestial dragon and has come to Dustless's residence. "Sure enough, it's that deceptive fiancé. What did I do?" Twitching his mouth, Dustless wanted to cry but had no tears. At the same time, he secretly cursed the old bastard in his heart and couldn't help but fantasize about the old sow. The male celestial dragon is synonymous with the ugly man, and the female celestial dragon is naturally synonymous with the ugly woman. I hope she can leave sensibly, otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. With a cold luster in his eyes, Dustless walked straight into the depths of the villa. If the other party is sensible and can leave obediently, Dustless naturally will not say much. If she is shameless, he can only destroy the flower. Even if it is the so-called celestial dragon, he will not spare her. Marrying a fat pig as a wife is more serious than losing 10 years of life. In Dustless's bedroom, a petite figure came into view, with shoulder-length golden hair. Because of several gauze curtains, the specific appearance could not be seen clearly. Wearing the unique costume of the celestial dragon, and without a round air cover. After observing Dustless's bedroom for a while, the eyes of the mysterious blonde person flashed a strange color, and the corner of his mouth evoked a strange smile. The feeling that it gave people was particularly strange. No wonder it is said to be a different kind of celestial dragon. Staring at the neatly placed books on the table, the mysterious person showed holy blue eyes and held a golden sword full of mysterious runes in his hand. Even if it has not been drawn, the whole room is full of cold sword light. Chapter 399. Dustless's room was very different from other celestial dragons. It was simple and elegant, with all kinds of books, and even had an indescribable natural flavor. These books were obviously not deliberately pretentious. There were still fresh handwriting on them, and the ink stains were not dry. Obviously, Dustless had read them carefully. Other celestial dragons' rooms were all kinds of luxurious gems, and there was a smell of obscenity. In fact, Dustless's room used to be inlaid with all kinds of gorgeous decorations, shining extremely, but Dustless had ordered them to be removed. He is interested in boring history. The blonde celestial dragon frowned slightly, and her gem-like eyes flashed with a strange color. She curiously picked up the books that Dustless had compared, and read carefully in her spotless eyes. She looked peaceful and quiet. After about a while, the corners of her mouth raised slightly, revealing a smile full of deep meaning, and whispered, "He is not interested in history, but in the history of celestial dragons and everything 800 years ago." The dense handwriting filled the books, and the content recorded was all about celestial dragons and the 800 years of blank history. This is an unexpected effort, but this handwriting is really difficult to look at. Her delicate nose wrinkled as she spoke with a slightly dissatisfied expression. Perhaps because she was too absorbed, the blonde girl did not realize the arrival of Dustless. "Who allowed you to enter my room?" Dark and cold, staring at the back of the front, Dustless's eyes flashed a cold light, and he snapped, and the strong and oppressive murderous aura filled the whole room. Sneaking into his bedroom without being pressed, and saying that the level of education was not good, and the handwriting was garbage, how could this be? The blonde figure turned around, revealing his white skin. He pointed to the books and said softly, "You have a lot of courage. If these contents are leaked out, your identity as a celestial dragon will not be good. First of all, let me introduce myself, Yali Klaya." The celestial dragon in front of him was obviously well educated, and she bloomed a smile. Her smile was beautiful, and her face was flawless like a porcelain doll, which subverted Dustless's understanding of celestial dragons. There was an absurd feeling of an old sow turning into a fairy. Who allowed you to come in? After all, she was not an ordinary person. After a moment of absent-mindedness, Dustless recovered his indifference. Looking at the sacred blue eyes, he asked Klaya unhappily. "The field involved in these contents, with your current identity, you can't touch, it's better not to explore it." Because of her height was higher than Dustless, she looked down at Dustless, ignoring the previous remarks. Klaya solemnly warned him, even if her voice was extremely soft, with a sense of superiority. The identity of the celestial dragons is also divided into high and low. If they were all the same as the group of idiots in the outside world, they would have been swallowed a long time ago. At this point, the golden-haired girl revealed an arrogant expression. The meaning of her words was obvious. "Your identity, eyes, and of the eyes of the extremely dangerous. Of the eyes of light of the extreme of the extreme. Of the eyes of the eyes. The eyes, that is." Looking at Dustless's eyes, Klaya admitted frankly. "Sure enough, even if the woman in front of me who calls herself Klaya has a good education, the idea of superiority is deeply ingrained in her bones, and the inviolable character of supremacy has not changed." Seeing this, Dustless shook his head in disappointment, and then his whole body flashed with a bright golden light. Like a ghost, he appeared behind her. Staring at her who was unaware, the corner of his mouth flashed a cold smile. "If that's the case, then you can go to hell and be superior to others." His right arm flashed with a black flame. Dustless's face was cold, and he stabbed straight at her back. The black netherworld ghost fire was enough to burn everything in the world. It was no doubt Amaterasu. It directly penetrated her body. However, the strange thing was that the person in front of him stood there quietly, as if she did not exist, and it could not burn her at all. "Stop, you can't burn me." Turning her head, looking down at Dustless who was shorter than her, Klaya smiled sweetly, with a proud expression, and said, "I think you can't even comprehend my ability." "Ability that I can't comprehend? A mere little girl dares to say that." Hearing this, the corner of Dustless's mouth suddenly rose, and his pupils rapidly changed, revealing a scarlet five-pointed star eye. The light emitted was incomparably dangerous, and he revealed a strange evil smile. "Although I don't know what your ability is, but, gravity, everything in the world is controlled by gravity. No matter what ability you have, don't even think about escaping from gravity." Shameless boasting. Klaya sneered again and again, and was about to ridicule Dustless, when an indifferent voice sounded first. Kamui. Clio was stunned, her soul trembling under Dustless's scarlet eyes. Just as she was about to activate her ability to leave, a majestic suction force came from behind her, locking her body. Scoundrel, isn't your ability similar to Kizaru's light? Clio's expression changed greatly when she felt the suction force. Her expression changed greatly, and she was overwhelmed with shock. She turned her head to look at the shattered space behind her, and the fear in her sacred blue eyes was obvious. Gravity, everything in the world is controlled by gravity. This phrase was not just for show. Light? How ignorant are you? A ray of emerald light came out of Clio's body and floated in the void. Oh, you are finally willing to come out. With a smile on his handsome face, Dustless looked up at the green light floating in the air and asked with a grin, giving people the feeling that he was asking for a beating. Impossible, even a Marine Admiral can't see anything wrong with my ability, I should be invincible. The green light spoke in human language, and asked Dustless angrily, but she was more curious. Her trick has never failed in front of many strong people, but it didn't work with Dustless today. Invincible ability. I really don't know where your confidence comes from. Indifferently gazing at that beam of light, Wu Chen sighed. His scarlet eyes were extremely mysterious. His eye power was omnipotent. He pointed at his eye sockets, and his emotionless voice resounded in the dark room. In front of these eyes, any perfect ability in the world is full of flaws. Even gods can't hide from my eyes. A sonorous and powerful voice came out of Dustless's throat. The tone was hoarse and low, but no one dared to doubt it. Sure enough, you are a stupid idiot, telling others your ability. Are you not afraid that I will? Didn't I say before, whether it is the power of light that I used before, or the power of my eyes now, it is one of my countless abilities. You don't seem to understand what it means. Looking at the emerald light, Dustless's face showed a hopeless expression. Pretending to be mysterious, since you knew from the beginning that I was occupying someone else's body, why didn't you directly expose me? The green light rippled and asked unwillingly. Who would want to be a little devil? Since you want to dance without wind, I can only turn into the wind and let you fly. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a waste of your carefully crafted script? The energy fluctuations from the Sharingan suddenly magnified, and a black flame ignited out of thin air and directly swallowed it. This is not her main body's consciousness, but an existence similar to a split body, so even if it is annihilated, it won't have much effect. Everything in the empty room came to an end. Chapter 400. In the room, everything came to an end and tranquility was restored. In the dark environment, only Dustless's figure was left, blending into the surrounding darkness. This is the body used to reincarnate, it's no different from a vampire. Looking down at the skinny body on the ground, Dustless shook his head and a black ghost fire appeared on his fingertips. He flicked his finger and burned the shriveled body into nothingness. I don't care about your bullshit Tenryubito, don't provoke me in the end, otherwise, I don't mind staging such a shocking scene as Fratryubito. Remembering Clio's previous words, Dustless sneered again and ignored her directly. No matter how bizarre and unreliable a Tenryubito is, it is still immortal. Paw paw paw, moving his muscles and bones, there was a crackling sound of bones. Wu Chen was sleepy. The biggest task of the celestial dragons was to eat, drink, and have fun. Unconsciously, he was also affected. He was unusually sleepy. When he was about to have a good sleep, the sound of hurried footsteps suddenly came. It was Hancock who ran over, holding a newspaper in her hand. Did Admiral Kong and the Marines' top officials leave Mariewa? Seeing Hancock's face with eagerness, Dustless asked with expectation. The Marine headquarters top officials gathered in Mariewa, there must be an unknown conspiracy. No. Hancock shook her head and handed the newspaper in her hand directly to Dustless. This is also one of the tasks that Dustless gave her. Every day, the newspaper must be filtered and then the important content must be extracted and handed to Dustless. Frowning slightly, Dustless took the newspaper from Hancock's hand and read its contents rigorously. Hancock also went to make tea. After about an hour, a smile of interest appeared on his face and his dull eyes were replaced by a shining luster. Obviously, the contents of the newspaper attracted Dustless's attention. Did Kaido fight with Whitebeard? Is that guy crazy? Could it be that his skin is itchy and he wants to use his own body to test how sharp Whitebeard's broadsword is? Throwing the newspaper aside, Dustless's eyes were filled with astonishment. He couldn't help but sweat for Kaido's madness. Whitebeard is known as the strongest man in the world. He is now only in his 50s and is still in the golden age of his life. His endurance are extremely strong. Challenging him is no different from seeking death. However, Kaido directly started a war with the Whitebeard pirates. There's something fishy going on. There's definitely something fishy going on. Narrowing his eyes slightly, Dustless's eyes flashed with a flash of understanding. Kaido was a martial artist and liked to solve problems with strength, but it didn't mean that he didn't know how to use his brain. Challenging Whitebeard was definitely a way to solve problems that would only benefit others. There was no way Kaido didn't understand such a simple and clear logic. It seems like Whitebeard has Kaido's things, that's why he's so desperate. Businessmen pursue profits, and so do pirates. Only under the influence of monstrous interests, Kaido will risk his life to stroke Whitebeard's butt. It's conceivable that the things that are enough to make Kaido crazy are not ordinary things. The sea is full of mystery and contains endless treasures. It is precisely because of this that countless explorers rush into the mysterious sea. All in all, the sea is full of charm, danger, and opportunity coexist. Maybe because of an accidental accident, you will fall into a mysterious cave and find a mountain of gold and silver treasures. This kind of bizarre thing sounds like a fantasy story, but it happens from time to time, and there are countless examples. It may be a devil fruit with strange abilities. Narrowing his eyes, Dustless secretly guessed. For someone like Kaido who stands at the top of the pyramid, only some special devil fruit will attract his attention. The so-called gold coins or treasures can't tempt Kaido at all, especially when his opponent is such a ferocious super monster like Whitebeard. A devil fruit that can tempt Whitebeard and Kaido, with a hidden passion in his eyes, Dustless's face was full of curiosity. Obviously, he was also tempted. It's not just him, I'm afraid the whole world wants to know what special things make the two god-level pirates collide. Will it be a conspiracy of the Marines? Hancock handed the hot tea in her hand to Dustless and analyzed. The Marines love to play tricks, which is known to the world, and pirates like Whitebeard and Kaido are the focus of attention. A trap. That's impossible. You underestimate them too much. Those seemingly rude pirates are actually thoughtful people. Hearing this, Dustless shook his head and drank the boiling tea. The first impression of pirates is that they are rude and brutal. In fact, they are very cunning, all of them are old foxes, and they don't even spit out the bones. The stronger the person, even if there is a conflict, will suppress it, because once a war breaks out between the two sides, the consequences are unpredictable, and the whole world may be caught in this vortex. And if he really fell into the Marines' trap, the world would have returned to peace countless years ago, and the popular profession of pirate will not appear again. Anyway, let's go and see if it's useful to me. The hesitation in his eyes was replaced by determination. Wu Qin said resolutely. The devil fruit's ability was all-encompassing. There were all kinds of unheard and unseen abilities. Even the strange ability to make people immortal and indestructible existed. Not only was Dustless moved, but the whole world was boiling. The mysterious thing that caused the confrontation between the two Zhonghai bandits, the worm in everyone's stomach, was hooked. Countless pirate regiments have flocked to the New World, and without exception, their goal is the island where Whitebeard and Kaido fought, to admire the heroic appearance of the two peerless powerhouses. These pirates were also tactful, knowing that they were not the opponents of the two giants, they just watched from a distance. The aftermath of the battle was enough to make people stop in their tracks. Chapter 401. Somewhere on an iceberg island in the New World, a brand new sailboat was quietly docked on the shore. There was a bonfire on the shore, and tall figures with strong physiques were clearly visible. The sign on the bow was also quite strange. It was a red flamingo, which looked neither fish nor fowl. Several figures sitting on the ground around the bonfire were wolfing down barbecued meat in their hands like beasts. Their hungry appearance was no different from the reincarnation of a hungry ghost. "We did a big job." The wretched-looking man with sloppy clothes and messy hair spoke. His arms couldn't help but wave about, and he seemed to be rather happy. He almost stood up and started dancing with joy. Beside him were countless financial reports, as well as various drugs and firearms. There were even a few half-exposed boxes with strange fruits in them. Looking closely, it was the legendary devil fruit. "Master, we seem to have made a lot of movements recently. The Marine Vice Admirals have been chasing us all over the world all day." The middle-aged man with sunglasses said uneasily. The Marines' recent tracks were really strange. It was similar to positioning navigation. Wherever the Don Quixote pirates appeared, the Marine flies would come as scheduled. "I hope all of this is a coincidence." Hearing this, the middle-aged man who was wolfing down his food looked stiff. He stared at the man with black fur in front of him. This man was the leader of the Don Quixote pirates, Doflamingo. If the situation wasn't so strange, he really didn't want to suspect his brother. Since Corazon appeared, they would occasionally encounter the Marine. Whether it was accidental or inevitable, all of this was too much of a coincidence. Hee. The recent activities are really frequent. After a signature strange smile, Doflamingo with dark red eyes said cautiously. The Marines' vice admirals were strong, and the current Don Quixote pirates were still a little weak. Especially when they were besieged by several vice admirals, they would definitely be wiped out. That guy Kaido is really an idiot. He really went to war with Whitebeard. It seems that in the face of temptation, he can't give up. Ha! Terrifying and suppressed laughter spread out, and the content involved in it caused one's imagination to run wild. "Young master, you're playing with fire. Once we're discovered by Whitebeard and Kaido, they can easily crush us 100 times over with a flick of their fingers," one of the cadres couldn't help but say. The higher the strength of a pirate, the higher their self-esteem. If Whitebeard and Kaido knew that the person behind them was Doflamingo, the Don Quixote pirates would be in big trouble and become the enemy of the whole world. Many pirates will definitely attack the Don Quixote pirates to gain the favor of Whitebeard and Kaido. Kiki. I've always been in this kind of dark business. Besides, if I can really drag this world down with me, I won't regret it even if I immediately step onto the road to the Yellow Springs. A bulge appeared on Doflamingo's forehead, and there seemed to be bugs lurking inside. Doflamingo's eyes were instantly filled with blood vessels. It was horrifying, and his eyes flickered with hatred. The members of the Don Quixote pirates looked at him in fear. Even though the person in front of them was very friendly to their family members and treated them like family, they couldn't help but feel fear in their hearts. Doflamingo's methods were amazing, and he even caused Kaido to challenge Whitebeard. Kiki. They can't know that I did it. Maybe in their eyes, they don't even know who Doflamingo is, let alone suspect me. You think too much, Treble. There was a strange laughter in his throat, and Doflamingo said in a strange tone. Although he said that, you can still hear the unwillingness in his voice. Although he is now famous in the world, it's not enough to catch the attention of those super pirates. Boom. Boom. Boom, the quiet atmosphere ended, and an ear-piercing roar resounded through the sky. Countless cannonballs suddenly exploded, and monstrous waves splashed up on the water surface. The water splashed everywhere. Looking into the distance, the marine battleship in the distance was clearly visible. It's really a ghost of a bastard. With a cold light in his eyes, Doflamingo said hatefully. At the same time, he waved his arms for a while. The family members who were eating looked at each other and decided to board the ship and escape. The Marine seems to have only sent a vice admiral this time. It seems that we have been underestimated. Through the telescope, Doflamingo's mouth raised and showed a cruel smile. This time, we don't have to be a rat in the street. Kill the cockroach. Doflamingo was annoyed. Being chased by the Marine will leave a shadow in anyone's heart. Master, it's better to take the opportunity to leave. Maybe this is a trap, and they took the initiative to attack the Marine. Seeing Doflamingo's murderous intent, Gladius, one of the family cadres, advised him. Especially killing a Marine vice admiral is not a small crime. Kiki. Those people don't know my identity. I am also a descendant of God. Even if they really catch me, they won't dare to do anything to me. Pirates from all over the world heard the news and rushed to the place where Whitebeard and Kaido were fighting. Everyone was shocked by the horrible scene. Giant, a few meters high, fiercely confronted each other, and the ground would change and collapse. In the center of the island, Haki raged, dark clouds rolled, and everything was quiet. There was a long and narrow abyss, and two Haushiku Haki were fighting against each other. As time passed, the crack in the sky became bigger and deeper, as if it was torn by hands. Ah, it's really scary. A young and thin figure flashed out of thin air, with a frivolous smile on the corner of his mouth. Although his mouth was like this, he was not afraid to walk toward the center of the island. Chapter 402. On an unknown island, the smell of blood was everywhere. In order to prevent his identity from being exposed, Dustless took out a mask prepared in advance to cover his face. These pirates don't know Dustless, but there are many people in the Marine. Although the island is filled with pirates, no one can guarantee that there is no Marine undercover. It's good not to be afraid of the Marine, but when the time comes, it will inevitably be troublesome and become the focus of attention. Dustless is convinced of this. Without thinking about it, Dustless went straight to the place where the two forces collided most intensely. Is that Kaido? The fight immediately attracted Dustless's attention. The strong energy fluctuations, even 10 kilometers away from the center, can be felt. Through his strong vision, Dustless can clearly see the figures of Kaido and Whitebeard fighting together. Whitebeard was the kind of supreme overlord. Although Kaido was a latecomer and was considered a junior compared to Whitebeard, he still had a lot of fun fighting with Whitebeard. The humans in this world don't grow up eating hormones. With ripples in his pupils, Dustless is quite speechless. Whether it is Kaido or Whitebeard, they are both tall giants, and their bulging muscles are full of explosive power. It is not a body that normal human beings should have. Don't talk about trying to challenge them, being looked at by them will break your heart. However, Dustless's goal was not the two of them. His majestic perception spread out and took everything into his eyes. Soon, he found Whitebeard's Moby Dick. With a smile on his face, Dustless walked over. Dustless is not interested in participating in the grievances between Whitebeard and Kaido. They already have grievances, and now the war is just a fuse. Whiz! A sharp cold light fell from the sky. Looking at the sluggish Dustless, the man with the sword had a fierce smile on his face. On this island, as long as you don't know your partner, you are an enemy. Stupid. Shaking his head, Dustless walked straight ahead, ignoring the figure in the sky. The void suddenly condensed a golden iron fist and smashed straight down. Bang! The body of the pirate who was about to kill Dustless exploded as he was hit head-on by the golden iron fist. He simply turned into a pool of blood and scattered in the void. The ground was covered with dark red blood stains. Along the way, many pirates wanted to take Dustless's life, but they were easily killed on the spot. These pirates were strong, but most of them were similar to cannon fodder. On Moby Dick's deck, Dustless's figure was clearly visible, and the ground was full of corpses. With his eyes half closed, the thick smell of blood lingering in the air was completely ignored. Endless perception spread out in all directions, turning into an endless impact that instantly disintegrated the structure of the ship. After a few breaths of time, he frowned and opened his eyes. "There doesn't seem to be anything I want." With a sigh, Dustless said helplessly. "Think about it, the Whitebeard pirates are not idiots. Such an important thing will naturally not be placed on the ship." He turned around, and a ghostly voice echoed behind him. "Hey, a bunch of useless guys, let a mouse slip in." The mouth is so disdainful, but the person who came is actually murderous. The members of the Whitebeard pirates are all sons of Whitebeard. In other words, the relationship between each other's crew is also brotherly. His body is burning with dreamy blue flames, and the flames are more intense and deep, enough to burn everything. Marco, captain of the first team of the Whitebeard pirates, Zoan's fantasy beast seed fruit, has a super regenerative ability, known as the immortal bird, and is extremely powerful. Looking indifferently at the angry figure burning with green flames, Dustless chuckled. "You are a brave guy. You came on board to steal things and made such a big movement. You are crazy." His eyes were gloomy as he looked at the fragments of Moby Dick. Marco's huge palm condensed into a fist. The ship was even older than him and was one of their indispensable partners. Now that it was destroyed by Dustless, his heart was self-evident. "You made a mistake, Marco." Hearing this, Dustless raised his finger and shook it gently. He smiled and said, "If I didn't make such a big movement, how would you know that I was on board? I'm a busy man. I don't have time to play hide-and-seek with you, so I can only let you come to me." As soon as the lazy voice fell, the figure of the immortal bird disappeared completely, crossing the void, and came in front of Dustless in an instant. "Since you want to die so much, I will help you. The prestige of the Whitebeard pirates is not something you can provoke. Go to hell and repent." With blue flames on his fist, Marco punched towards Dustless's back. It was so powerful that it was enough to smash through a mountain. He will never let go of those who dare to trample on his father's feelings. Good speed, the fruit ability is also good. His pupils rippled and he was aware of the hot fist behind him that wanted to burn him into nothingness. Dustless said calmly and then closed his eyes calmly. A layer of golden luster rose from the ground, boom. With a bang, Marco's whole arm trembled fiercely and his face was aghast. He stared at the golden light as thin as a cicada's wing. His heart inevitably sank and he did not hesitate to burst back. Ability user, this kind of sturdy barrier is actually so hard. His face was unusually ugly. This ordinary-looking golden energy was unexpectedly tough. His full-force attack just now felt like he had hit a meteorite, and his arm was numb from the shock. "Do you want to say it yourself, or do you want me to ask it myself?" Dustless asked casually as a ripple splashed in the sky. At the same time, a sword of light had condensed in his hand. The sharp light made people not dare to look directly at it. Under the cover of the golden light, everyone felt as if there was a knife at their back. Chapter 403. Marco's eyebrows tightly condensed together and his eyes focused on the golden light sword in Dustless's hand. With this move, he saw the figure of Marine Headquarters Vice Admiral Borsellino, Kizaru. His entire body was suffused with golden light, and Dustless disappeared without a trace. This speed, as well as the ability to launch it, is the same as that Borsellino. Marco's face changed slightly. Facing the enemy, he forced himself to calm down and analyzed seriously. His black eyes suddenly darkened, and a figure was reflected in Marco's eyes. Looking at it, the vague shadow was Dustless with a mask. The invincible Kusanagi sword in his hand, the sword cut the edge and rushed straight towards Marco. The speed of light is unparalleled. Even if Marco uses observation hockey to detect Dustless's trace, he can't launch an evasion in such a short time. Staring at the golden light sword, his eyes were filled with despair. Pucci. The cold light came down and the light beam passed through Marco's body, cutting his whole body into two halves, and the purple flame was also broken into two halves. Dustless's face was lonely, his eyelids were twitching, and he left with no expression on his face. Where do you think you're going? As the captain of the Whitebeard pirates, if I'm so easily killed by you, where will my face go? A cold voice came from behind. Dustless's footsteps also stopped. He turned his head, and his pupils reflected killing intent. The split flames on the ground turned into countless azure rays, and then quickly condensed and closed. The flames slowly formed a human figure, and Marco was reborn. However, it is obvious that this ability also has a burden, and Marco's face was pale. It's a good ability. Seeing this scene, Dustless's eyes flashed with appreciation. The azure flames had no temperature, and it was completely opposite to ordinary flames. It was full of vitality, and any damage received could be quickly repaired. This ability is good. It's a pity. With a sigh, Dustless suddenly said inexplicably. A pity. Marco, whose body had been repaired, frowned and clenched his fists. He felt that Wu Chen's words had a different meaning. He looked at Wu Chen warily. There's no doubt about the fruit's ability, but you're not the best. After saying that, Dustless's figure disappeared in a flash. The heavenly cluster cloud sword in his hand rose up, and the sharp light once again successfully slashed Marco's body in half. It's useless. It's my turn to fight back. With a muffled sound, the fist wrapped in cyan flames blasted towards Dustless's face, and the black and cyan light intersected with each other. Obviously, Marco also used armament hockey to prevent accidents. What a weak fist. Dustless sneered again and again. Evil golden light waves gushed out of his body and condensed into a simple defensive wall. Two different colored iron fists greeted Dustless's face. Bang! Caw caw caw. The power of this heavy blow was clearly extraordinary. Some fine cracks appeared on the golden defense. Break for me. With a roar, the strength of his whole body accelerated, and the momentum of his fist became more fierce. The defensive enchantment collapsed, and he blasted towards Dustless's head. Naive. The arm shook, and the silver light went up. The moment the fist approached Dustless, the whole arm suddenly fell to the ground, splashing the dust on the ground, and even burning with cyan flames. Looking up, Marco's right arm had been cut off by Dustless. It's useless. Seeing this, Marco snorted, and the cyan flames on his body became more turbulent. Countless rays of light extended to his right arm and recondensed into a new arm. Any damage I receive will be repaired, and your attack is useless to me. His face suddenly turned pale, and Marco said confidently. The corners of his mouth were white, and his eyes were obviously dim. Obviously, he was not as confident as he said. No matter what type of devil fruit it is, whether the ability is powerful or not is related to the user's own strength. Obviously, with Marco's current strength, he can't repair his body indefinitely, and there are limits to his regeneration. My attack is useless to you. Even if you want to entangle me for Whitebeard, you don't have to be so unafraid of death to this extent. Seeing through Marco's plan at a glance, Dustless shook his head speechlessly. This kid is so desperate to stop him, he just wants to lighten Whitebeard's burden. If Dustless and Kaido attack Whitebeard together, the consequences will be unimaginable. Don't talk nonsense, just come at me. Staring at Dustless with murderous intent, Marco said decisively, with a tone of not fearing life and death. His eyes turned blood red, and he obviously intended to fight like a cornered beast. For the Whitebeard pirates, he can do anything. As Dustless guessed, there are indeed limits to regeneration, and it is not absolutely impossible to be injured. If the injury exceeds a certain extent, even in the fruit form, he will die. Since you want to die so much, I will help you. However, now is not the time to kill you. I still need to extract your memory. A cold light appeared in his eyes, and Dustless's breath began to soar. It was impossible to expect Marco to tell him personally. Only by forcibly extracting his memory can he find out the reason why Dustless and Kaido fought. His eyes began to twist, and his scarlet eyes were exposed to the air. Being stared at by those eyes, there was a feeling of soul trembling. Marco was in a trance, and he seemed to see an exaggerated giant hundreds of meters high, and his thoughts stopped, and his face was stunned. Staring at Dustless's eyes, he instinctively perceived danger. The game is over, the three Tomo Sharingan rippled, and the eye power began to rage, directly invading Marco's mind through his eyes. Chapter 404. The mystery of Sharingan is extremely tricky. Dustless has just arrived in a different world, and it's the first time it's activated. Although Marco, who didn't realize it, is instinctively aware of the danger, it's the first time he experienced the power of Sharingan. When he came back to his senses, it was already too late. His eyes fell into boundless gray and lost their luster. I should have used Sharingan to solve you in advance. Seeing this, Wu Qin shook his head and walked to Marco's side indifferently and leisurely. A frivolous smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and the disdain in his eyes was obvious. Your god of war Whitebeard isn't showing up at the moment. Looking down, Dustless's eyes were full of smiles, and his strange voice was full of ridicule and sarcasm. When the members of the Whitebeard pirates mentioned their respect for their father, each of them could be resurrected with full blood and full of energy. But now it seems that it doesn't work. You should still have consciousness. I didn't take your life. Otherwise, your Whitebeard father would have chased me all over the world. Staring at the unconscious Marco, Dustless said bluntly. He didn't kill Marco. Marco's strength is good and Genjutsu can only give him a mental blow. Who needs your charity? My head is here. You can take it if you have the ability. Opening his eyelids with difficulty and looking at the smiling Dustless, Marco roared. If he could, he would rather die directly. Dustless didn't kill him. This kind of provocation is useless to me. Don't waste your saliva, and, turning a deaf ear to the provocation in Marco's tone, Dustless directly ignored it as if it was a passing wind. The smile on his face disappeared, and he said in a hoarse voice, "You are not worthy to die in my hands. Those who deserve to be killed by me, I will not let him go even if he is at the end of the world. Even if an ant kneels down and begs for death, I will not look at him. What kind of person do you think you are?" Marco. Dustless asked Marco jokingly with a playful smile on his indifferent face. He didn't hide the ridicule in his tone. Come at me if you have any tricks up your sleeve. Marco snorted. Seeing that Dustless was so eloquent, he directly buried his head in the ground, as if he was ashamed to be in the same place as Dustless. Hey. You're not a rat, why do you have to dig into the ground? The taunting laughter sounded again. Dustless's right eye also changed, the dark blue irregular eye was clearly visible, it was the Tensigen unique to the Otsutsuki family. What kind of monster is this guy? Judging from his voice and physique, he is at most 20 years old. Marco was speechless and had mixed feelings. He thought that when he was Dustless's age, he was still young and inexperienced, and he fantasized about becoming the Pirate King all day long. First of all, he had already lost to Dustless at the starting line. Let's end our chat here. With a flick of his finger, the emerald halo quietly sneaked into Marco's body, his body suddenly stiffened, his eyes began to dim, his expression struggled, and the color of his pupils emerged. You spun a cocoon around yourself. Even if you confess the truth, you won't be able to avoid suffering. Dustless grinned and sneered. Everything has a price. Since Marco refused his kindness, he must pay the corresponding price. After a while, the emerald light swept out of Marco's body, and the light that had penetrated into his body before returned with a full load. With a gentle flick of his white and tender hand, the green light began to reflect Marco's memory. From childhood to adulthood, his life's memories were slowly played in this light cluster. This kid started robbing at such a young age. It seems that pirates are really not good things. After watching for a while, Dustless stared at the unconscious Marco and said speechlessly, "This kid was not a good thing when he was a child. He began to be a bandit when he was a teenager." Stretching out his index finger, he tapped the green light cluster again, and the image in the picture suddenly began to accelerate. Soon, the special picture entered Dustless's sight. Looking at the mysterious fruit in the iron box, his calm heart suddenly rose to his throat. "Isn't this the rubber fruit used by Monkey D. Luffy?" A surprised tone jumped out of Dustless's mouth. The reason why he could recognize the rubber fruit at a glance was because Dustless had seen the devil fruit illustration handbook. "It's just a rubber fruit, it shouldn't be enough to cause a war between the two kings of the sea." Looking at the reflection of the rubber fruit in the green light cluster, Dustless said suspiciously, "The rubber fruit may be extraordinary, but it is absolutely impossible to cause a war between the two kings of the sea. It's not enough." The picture of the emerald light cluster changed again, and another more shocking picture was exposed to Dustless's sight. In the same black box, there was a dark red devil fruit. This fruit is extremely strange. There are no lines on it. There are all kinds of flowers and trees, mountains and rivers carved on it, and even an unknown sphere like the sun. Deep in the clouds, there is a curved and elegant monster hidden. Perhaps others don't know this creature, but Dustless recognized it at a glance. This is a mythical creature that is synonymous with omnipotence, the top creature that can summon the wind and summon the rain, Shinran. That's right, the strange devil fruit in front of him was a floating divine dragon. It was so lifelike that it seemed to contain everything. Impossible, this fruit has no reason to appear in the hands of Whitebeard. Dustless's face was gloomy, and his eyes were uncertain. He had seen this strange devil fruit before, and even if it wasn't for the fact that he had already eaten the glint fruit, he would have chosen to eat this fruit. How did Mariehua's things run into Whitebeard's hands? Are you kidding me? Chapter 405. Mariehua is definitely the strongest fortress in the world, with countless strong people. The Gorosei, 5 elder stars, are the most powerful guardians, and each of them is at least at the level of a marine admiral. In addition, there is also the world government's commander-in-chief, as well as intelligence departments such as CP0, CP9. The strongest man in the world, Whitebeard, invaded Mariehua with his pirates and stole the devil fruit of the Holy Land. This joke is not funny at all. This devil fruit has been preserved in Mariehua for many years, and Whitebeard can't take it away even if he has the means to do so. Sitting casually on a stone, Dustless's thoughts flew all over the place. Since Whitebeard has no ability to steal it, there is only one way to go. The origin of this devil fruit has nothing to do with Whitebeard, but someone gave it to him. The ignorant are fearless. Maybe you know the essence of the devil fruit, and you can't wait to throw away this hot potato immediately. Shaking his head silently, Dustless recalled the color in his eyes. He has not only seen this fruit but even touched it himself. In fact, the devil fruit illustrated handbook also has its records, so an ancient mythological beast Shenlong fruit. The fact has nothing to do with dragon. No one knows the ability of this fruit. I am afraid that the reason why it is called Shenlong fruit is because of the lifelike Shenlong on the fruit. No matter in which world, dragon is a mysterious and supreme existence in the eyes of human beings. This unprecedented creature can ride the clouds and mist, and it is easy to destroy the world and create the world. In other words, it is synonymous with God. It's no wonder that Kaido would go crazy and challenge the Whitebeard pirates. Shenlong fruit is almost deified, and it is human nature for him to be so eager. Thousands of doubts vanished in an instant. Wu Qin said as a matter of course. If he didn't know the secret, he would also pursue this so-called divine dragon fruit. After all, it represented eternity. No one would be idle and have a long life. In fact, this is not the case. The so-called Shenlong fruit has nothing to do with dragon, and no one knows its ability at present. Anyway, I have to take back the devil fruit with unknown ability. Although I don't know what ability it has, it is still the ultimate devil fruit. Dustless's eyes flickered with an awe-inspiring luster. He did not know how powerful this devil fruit was, but it was a complete ultimate fruit. The reason why Dustless knew about this devil fruit was that his celestial dragon father died at the hands of this devil fruit. His strength was close to that of a marine admiral, but he was blown up by a devil fruit. It sounds like a fairy tale, but this is the case. There is an essential difference between the ultimate devil fruit and the ordinary devil fruit. It has some incredible abilities. For example, the surgeon fruit can perform immortal surgery on others, but the premise is to give up one's life. Although the ability of the dragon-shaped fruit was unknown, it was obvious that it was not an ordinary fruit since it was related to the ultimate fruit. Even if its ability was unknown, Dustless would not allow it to fall into the hands of outsiders. Whitebeard, I hope you can be smarter and not be as slow as your actions. The resentment between Dustless and Whitebeard had nothing to do with him. Whether the two were dead or alive, Dustless was not interested in participating. That mysterious devil fruit was also Dustless's lineage no matter what. Outsiders had no right to touch it. But the Gorosei, 5 elder stars, is a good calculation. It's so easy to provoke the war between the two pirate regiments. This move is beautiful. I'm afraid that Fleet Admiral Kong and the others are still in the dark. All kinds of doubts in his eyes turned into understanding, and Dustless said admiringly. The reason why the Marines' high-level staff was summoned to Mariewa was obviously the intention of the Gorosei, 5 elder stars. The purpose is naturally to let the pirates of the New World completely let down their guard and be able to do a big job. When they are exhausted, it is time for the world government to close the net. Man proposes, God disposes. The entire world has been given the title of God, but it's actually useless. Instead, it's being played around by the cursed devil fruit, including myself. What a joke. With a self-deprecating smile on his mouth, Dustless sighed. If he hadn't extracted Marco's memory, he would still be in the dark. I'm afraid that only the Gorosei, 5 elder stars, would know the truth in this world. Of course, now there is one more Dustless. The mysterious fruit belongs to their family. Dustless must take it back again. Interesting ultimate devil fruit, it can explode an admiral-level powerhouse. His face was filled with disbelief. It was precisely because that strange fruit could explode everything it touched that it was called a cursed fruit. Similarly, it was also because of the flowers, trees, and all living things in the world, as well as the ancient and barbaric species such as the dragon, that it was sought after by the people of the world. For such an extremely contradictory fruit, Dustless is fearless and curious. If he can devour it, he doesn't mind challenging fate once and try if he will be blown up by the strange fruit. There is a saying that danger and opportunity coexist. It is impossible for a pie to fall from the sky, and it is even more impossible to reap without sowing. On an unknown island in the New World. The Marines stationed on the island frowned and looked at the crowd in black suits in front of them, but they didn't dare to speak. Because their boss, the Vice Admiral, is silent, apparently also afraid of the identity of this group of black-clothed people. This group of black-clothed people also ignored the existence of Marines, but carefully moved the containers filled with purple solution on the island. They were dark and serious, and they didn't dare to show the slightest carelessness. After all, it was an order from the 5 elders. Chapter 406. The only people who can make the Marines not dare to ask more are those with higher status. Only the officials belonging to the world government can do this. The containers that contained the red liquid looked extremely dangerous, so everyone was very careful. Be careful, don't dawdle, delay the time, we will not have a good fruit to eat. The cold voice with the command quietly spread, the tone with the smell of superiority. These men in black suits did not dare to refute, they just quickened their pace. Obviously, the owner of the voice is the person in charge of this mission. The only difference is that even if he remains indifferent, looking at these mysterious unknown containers, he will flash fear from time to time. After all, it is something that can destroy the world, and it also means that it can easily destroy them. Boom boom boom, the aftermath of the battle spread to every inch of the island. Whitebeard is now only in his 50s and is still at the peak of his life. Although Kaido is fierce, he did not take advantage of him. Whitebeard is proficient in tricolor hockey, and with the perfect combination of tremor fruit, gura gura no mi, he interpreted the words power and destruction to the extreme. Boom, with a loud noise, the air roared and vibrated, invisible ripples spread out and turned into an absolute impact, and the small mountain was torn by two brutal forces. Looking at it, it was the collision between Kaido and Whitebeard. Whitebeard, one of the three pirates. The strong man looked at Whitebeard, who was taller than him. He took a few steps back and stared at Whitebeard with his big eyes. Looking at Whitebeard, who was not panting or blushing, his heart inevitably sank. This old guy is worthy of being a character who can be on par with the Pirate King. He is still so energetic after a series of battles. He is no different from a monster. Kaido secretly thought in his heart, and at the same time, he calculated his chances of winning. Whitebeard is a character of the same level as him, and he also has the tremor fruit, gura gura no mi. His combat awareness is perfect. Even if he is over 50 years old, he is still as good as him and even has a little upper hand. He touched his right arm, which was still sore. The strongest man in the world is not casually called. Little devil, you still need a few years to defeat me. Seeing that Kaido was thinking about something, Whitebeard's laughter resounded through the clouds. He slammed his sharp broadsword on the ground, causing the entire island to tremble. The scene was extremely terrifying. The sun and the moon are replaced, and so are the products of the old era. You and Roger Golden Lion are the garbage of the last era. They have been swept into the garbage heap of history. You will also follow their ending. You didn't waste your time knowing each other. Kaido stared at Whitebeard with murderous intent. Facing Whitebeard's oppressive aura, Kaido sneered without fear. He was a little tired, but Whitebeard was not in a good state either. There were many bloodstains on his body. You really dare to say that? Hearing this, Whitebeard just smiled and retorted, there are countless clowns who want to take this old man's life. How many do you think you are? I think you will follow in their footsteps and become one of this old man's sons. Ha! Unbridled laughter resounded through the sky as Whitebeard mocked Kaido. I am the one who will take your life. After being ridiculed by Whitebeard, Kaido flew into a rage out of humiliation. With a stuffy snort, his eyes widened and invisible ripples broke out from his body. His momentum was monstrous, bringing with it the power to destroy the world. A black abyss appeared in the clear sky. You are not the only one who can use Haoshiku. Seeing Kaido so arrogant, Whitebeard was furious, and endless killing intent overflowed from his body. The earth under his feet could not bear the powerful force in Whitebeard's body and directly collapsed. What a coincidence. I also have the same idea as you. Today, I will kill you. Whitebeard's eyes rolled, revealing a bone-chilling cold light. He gritted his teeth and his observation haki spread out, taking in the wind and grass around him. Whitebeard's killing intent became stronger. The soaring Haoshiku haki swept out, and the two kings' auras fought against each other, pulling out a bottomless black abyss in the void. It was extremely terrifying. Many of his sons died, and of course, many members of Kaido's fleet also died. Even so, it could not extinguish the anger in Whitebeard's heart. For several years, or even as long as 10 years, he has always regarded these sons, crew members, as his own. It's really pedantic. As a pirate, you still have that ridiculous idea. Whitebeard, you are old. A sneer appeared on Kaido's rough face as he sneered. Whitebeard is a different kind of pirate. On the sea, he is the most nondescript and treats all the crew members as his sons. In Kaido's eyes, the winner is the king and the loser is the bandit. This is the hard truth. Less nonsense, if you want to take the devil fruit, you have to step over my dead body. Pointing to the iron box containing the devil fruit on the stone table in the distance, Whitebeard said domineeringly, revealing an unprecedented bold tone. That's what I meant. With a sneer, Whitebeard and Kaido fought again, and the scene was devastating. You pirates are really unscrupulous. How dare you use my family's things as a stake? Dustless in the distance sneered again and again. These two big uncouth men were really arrogant. They both wanted to take the devil fruit for themselves. Where would he put his face? His left eye rippled and turned into a deep samsara Sharingan. Dustless stared at the devil fruit box on the stone table, or simply at the corner of the clothes scattered on the stone table. His pupils suddenly widened, and the 9 black tomo in his eye sockets moved. Heavenly hand power. Chapter 407. When the Rinnegan is opened, everyone will have a corresponding dojutsu, whether it's Dustless, Uchiha Madara, or even Uchiha Sasuke who was gifted by the Rikudo Sennin. Dustless took Sasuke's ability from the system, so naturally, he can use his jutsu. In an instant, Dustless's body crossed the space and appeared in front of the stone table like a ghost. When he was about to reach for his devil fruit, a shadow fell from the sky. Ha! Raising his head and looking at the strange figure, Wu Chen was slightly stunned. His face was full of doubts and puzzlement, and his eyes were filled with surprise. The figure that descended from the sky obviously knew in advance that he would launch a sneak attack, so he could wait for him. It also indirectly shows that the fat figure has guessed the existence of Dustless in advance. The fat body was like a small mountain, and the eyes were very fierce, full of blood vessels, with a strong smell of spices. The dark fat body fell from the sky, wrapped in Busashoku Haki, full of destructive power. The appearance of the fat figure in the sky suddenly attracted the attention of Kaido and Whitebeard. Both of their faces changed slightly, and inevitably became gloomy. They knew this unknown figure, and it's also their enemy, Charlotte Linlin. Damned brat, how dare you try to steal what belongs to me? Staring at Dustless, Kaido's killing intent was awe-inspiring. If eyes could kill, Dustless would be full of holes. It's no wonder that he was angry. Dustless can compete with him for the ownership of the devil fruit, and Charlotte Linlin can do the same, but Dustless is obviously a stranger, and he doesn't know him, so he's not worthy of his attention. Now that this ant wanted to take away his treasure, how could Kaido swallow this humiliation? Get out of my way. His whole body's strength was pushed to the limit. Under anger, Kaido broke out in unprecedented terrifying strength. He temporarily blasted Whitebeard away with a punch, and quickly pulled back and rushed straight toward Dustless. Charlotte Linlin was falling from the sky, and Kaido was on the ground. It seems that Dustless's fate is doomed, and he's half a step into hell. That kid. What means did he use to appear? Whitebeard didn't move, his face was full of doubts. His observation haki has been covering the area, and there was no one around, but Dustless suddenly appeared like a ghost. He was not surprised. Give up. If you knew this would happen, you wouldn't have done it. Kaido sneered again and again. Seeing Dustless's eyes were as calm as stagnant water, he didn't hide, and he sneered again and again, his dark iron fist shining like the sun. Go to hell, the stage here is a stage for you. Just in case, Kaido also used armament haki. Dustless strangely appeared out of thin air. His observation haki did not detect any trace of him. It is estimated that he is also some kind of unknown mysterious ability. Just in case something unexpected happened, he still used armament haki. Go to hell, are you kidding me? The fist that was strong enough to shatter hit Dustless's head. Kaido thought that he could smash Dustless's head, but the dark fist directly penetrated Dustless's body, unable to hurt him at all. This inconceivable scene stunned Kaido. As you said, your stage is really too early for me, and I'm not interested in participating. Staring indifferently at Kaido, whose face was filled with disbelief, Wu Chen's pupils had already regained their calmness and turned into a pitch-black eyeball. He pointed at Kaido's glabella with his fingertip. Countless light particles instantly condensed and formed, and immediately erupted. Whiz! The dazzling beam of light roared out, and Kaido's pupils dilated, and his whole body was swallowed by the bright beam of light, and he was thrown out with black smoke. Boom! At the same time, Charlotte Linling's fat body also fell from the sky, her fat hands wrapped in armament haki, and the power of her fist was no weaker than Kaido's fist. Eat this old lady's fist, kid. The destructive fist followed in Kaido's footsteps and penetrated Dustless's body, but it didn't hurt him. This strange scene made Dustless stunned. Courtesy demands reciprocity, this is my reciprocation. His calf emitted a golden brilliance, Dustless jumped up, and the dazzling luster of his calf was very dangerous, and he kicked towards Charlotte Linling's head. Boom! 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 A long and narrow trench appeared on the ground, and the fat body was kicked back again and again. Charlotte Linling's hands were in front of her, and she easily defended against Dustless's impact. Obviously, with Kaido as an example, she was much smarter. Damned brat, he is indeed an ability user. Judging from this, it seems like he is some kind of strange ability user. Kaido stood up from the ruins, his dark body was full of explosive power, and the sound of gnashing teeth jumped out from his throat. Looking at the distance, Kaido's body was intact. This guy's ability is a bit strange. Seeing this, Dustless's eyebrows solidified. He was sure that Kaido was swallowed by the light and suffered fatal physical damage, but this guy is now like nothing happened. Hey! Kid, are you interested in being my subordinate? I can guarantee you a life of prosperity and help you get the devil fruit. In my pirate group, you have a status second only to me. Charlotte Linlin looked at Dustless, her eyes were full of sincerity. Apparently she really intended to put Dustless as a member of her pirate ship. However, these words inadvertently offended Whitebeard and Kaido, and the two immediately looked at Charlotte Linlin with murderous eyes. Charlotte Linling ignored Whitebeard and Kaido's murderous gazes and looked at Dustless with anticipation. Unfortunately, she was destined to be disappointed. Chapter 408. Dustless stared at Charlotte Linling with interest, and there was a great contrast in his heart. It was a good name, but the latter's appearance was really not complimentary. Looking up, Charlotte Linling was fat, with a ferocious face, thick lips, dark red lipstick, and a belly that was raised high like a sea king. Even if it was not as exaggerated as a sea king, it was still extremely ugly. In short, it was better to let Dustless drift on the sea with such a person for a lifetime than to kill him directly. Looking for a female pig to be a captain, Dustless did not have that kind of special hobby. Dragons don't live with snakes, sorry, for people like you. I'm not interested in people like you. Dustless under the mask said coldly, although he tried to keep his tone as calm as possible. He was shocked by Charlotte Linling's incomparable face, and his tone was extremely unnatural. You don't know what's good for you. The corners of Baigu Mamu's fat mouth parted into a smile as he spoke to Wu Chen with a sinister smile. A cold light flickered at the corners of his eyes. His snake-like sharp eyes circled around Wu Chen. After pondering for a while, he finally turned into silence. He did not move for a long time. In the end, the ruthlessness on Baigumamu's body completely disappeared. The pirates of the world were gathered here. She did not come to seize the devil fruit, nor did she jump out to challenge Whitebeard and Kaido. If she had to find an excuse, Big Ma'am came here today to demonstrate to the pirates of the world, and to take this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to announce her strength and the identity of the ruler to the world. Dustless was an enemy of unknown origin, unknown identity, unknown strength, but at least at the level of a marine admiral, there was no need to offend him. The simple feeling that pirates give people is that they are reckless and greedy, as long as money can be related to interests, even if it's walking on a tightrope on a cliff, they will not hesitate. But as the saying goes, there are exceptions to everything. Big Imam and Dustless have no hatred, and there is no need to have such a strong enemy, especially an enemy that she is not 100% sure of defeating. Thank you. Seeing this, Dustless smiled slightly and reached out to take the black iron box. For the paramecia rubber fruit, Dustless directly turned a deaf ear to it and just took the fruit handed down by his family. Dustless's eyes quietly spread, and his eyes flashed. The pirates of the world are gathered here. I'm afraid it's not as simple as devil fruit. It's like an emperor, this is their original intention. His eyes narrowed, and Dustless secretly speculated. Most of the islands in the New World were divided, among which the Whitebeard and Kaido pirates, including the Big Imam pirates, and Kaido pirates, including the Big Imam pirates, and the Big Imam pirates, which coincides with the emperor above all things. Rather than calling it a battle for the devil fruit, it was more like a battle to determine the emperor and who would rule the world in the future. As for Red Hair Shanks, Dustless hasn't seen his pirate group yet. He is open-minded and optimistic. He is not as greedy as other pirates, sitting on countless islands, but he is home everywhere. It has nothing to do with me, I don't care who the Yonko, for emperors, are. He is not interested in the competition of the Yonko, for emperors. It sounds very prestigious to overlook the world like an emperor. He still feels that the current identity of the celestial dragons is suitable for him. Wait. Turning around, a cold voice came. Looking up, it was Kaido who was looking down at Dustless. Compared with his strong body, Dustless is not worth mentioning. I am not interested in participating in your pirate game. I advise you to stop while you are ahead. Don't push your luck. The black pupil changed again, revealing 3 dark Tomo, impressively becoming 3 Tomo Sharingan. Dustless warned. He was originally a recluse. It was because he didn't want to cause trouble that he wore a mask to cover his face. However, this beast seems to be a little arrogant. Maybe in the eyes of pirates, living in a low-key way without causing any trouble is a disguised form of admitting defeat. The dry corner of his mouth slightly raised, Dustless stared at Kaido and said indifferently, I have heard that Kaido the Beast is the strongest creature in the world. I don't know if it is the same as the rumors. After that, the 3 Tomo in Dustless's eye sockets turned sharply and rippled. His quiet eyes with his expressionless face did have a bit of a strange taste. Of course, suicide is my greatest interest in life, but God can't take my life. He tried his best but didn't kill me. Hearing this, Kaido replied powerfully. Everyone could hear the pride in his tone. At the same time, he patted his chest. The scars on his body were even more than Whitebeard. This was the reason why he challenged others countless times. He had been sentenced to death 40 times, but he still lived to this day. On the contrary, his former enemies were annihilated one after another. You really dare to say that? Seeing Kaido was so rampant and shameless, Dustless's mouth twitched. He just thought of Kaido's strongest creature nickname and said it casually. He didn't expect Kaido to be so shameless. The strongest creature. Although the rumors are not credible, I can see that you are very confident in your vitality. Dustless, who knew that he couldn't be kind, no longer hid it. He asked with murderous intent. The hidden hostility in his body was like a flash flood, unstoppable. The murderous intent in his young body made people feel suffocated, and the smell of blood remained in the air. What a strong murderous intent. This guy is so young, why does he have such a strong murderous intent? Kaido frowned and muttered to himself in disbelief. He was sure that even if Wu Qin had started killing since he was born, he wouldn't have been able to accumulate such a dense and pure murderous aura. Even Kaido was affected. The strongest creature, the ultimate existence that can't be killed. It's terrible to be uneducated. There is a phrase called, living is worse than death. Do you know? You should regret having such a strong vitality. Chapter 409. Clenching his bucket-sized fists, Kaido's breath was cold, and his murderous aura was enough to crush people's will. It turned into a hurricane and raged towards Dustless. Since his debut, Dustless was the first person who dared to ridicule him so unscrupulously. Angering me, you will pay the heaviest price. His big eyes overflowed with crimson, and the two horns on his head were shining. The tall mountainous area turned into a black steel monster, as if it was dyed with ink, and only his eyes were crimson. And the price of angering me is your life. His murderous aura was boiling. Kaido didn't move, but when he moved, it was like thunder. With a whoosh sound, he disappeared. His speed was comparable to space movement. How can such a huge body have such a fast speed? Seeing Kaido disappear like a ghost, Dustless's pupils shrank, and he was surprised. He thought that Kaido was a monster of strength like Whitebeard, and speed was their biggest disadvantage, but now it seems that it is obviously the opposite. Kaido not only has the strength comparable to Whitebeard, but his speed is also incredible, and he is relying on his physical strength, and it has nothing to do with any ability. Trash brat, sure enough, you are just a flower vase, you can't even detect my speed, and you want to fight with me. Do you think you are Whitebeard or a Marine Fleet Admiral? Silently appearing behind Wu Qin, Kaido's face was full of sarcasm. Looking at Wu Qin, who was looking left and right, trying to find him with his naked eyes, the disdain on Kaido's ferocious face became thicker. His iron fist was raised high, and he was ready to attack. After a few breaths, his eyes were filled with murderous aura, and the condensed power was enough to smash a mountain, and his fist went straight out. Boom boom boom, with a loud bang, the earth suddenly burst open, setting off endless smoke and dust, and the shattered land extended infinitely, swallowing the surrounding ground and turning it into ruins. Kaido frowned in the smoke and took back his black iron fist, and his face was full of doubts. Strange, it felt like I missed. Amidst the dust that filled the sky, a golden light flashed and rushed towards Kaido in a straight line. In the blink of an eye, it stopped behind Kaido's back. The strongest creature. Let me see how strong your life force is. Yugue's ghostly voice caused Kaido's expression to freeze. Sensing the dazzling light behind him, his coarse lips curled into a disdainful smile as he indifferently waited for the impact of the light. Brat, if you have the ability, then kill me right now. Kaido's face was full of arrogance and disdain. He arrogantly mocked, kill me if you can. You can choose any part of my body, limbs, heart, or even head. Hearing this, Dustless's eyes were filled with coldness. The golden light gathered at the tip of his foot became even denser. He used all his strength to kick at Kaido's back. Kaido, on the other hand, only had a mocking smile on his face. His expression was leisurely and calm. Boom! 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 The harsh roar resounded through the sky, and you can clearly hear the ka-ka-ka sound of bones breaking. Kaido's back skin was torn open. Even with the armament hockey defense, it was torn by the powerful and unparalleled force and was easily thrown out. Boom! A long and narrow trench appeared on the ground, and a huge pit appeared. A pool of scarlet blood was clearly visible, and Kaido was lying in it. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Even if he doesn't die, he should have lost the battle. The words on the tip of Wu Chen's tongue suddenly stopped. Wu Chen's pupils widened. He couldn't believe the figure that slowly stood up from the deep pit. The ripples that had been calm for many years splashed. There is no doubt that the figure is Kaido. As if on purpose, Kaido exposed his back to Dustless's sight. Except for a burn mark, the previous bloody scene has disappeared. Brat, your attack doesn't seem to work. It's almost like scratching an itch for me. Are you a little girl? Look at your body, it's very much like a 15-year-old girl. Hey! Unscrupulously ridiculing Dustless, Kaido's face was full of pride. He casually brushed the dust off his body and said to Dustless. This guy. Is this the strongest beast in the world? Taking a deep breath, Dustless ignored Kaido's ridicule and said in surprise. At the same time, he secretly guessed Kaido's ability. Not to mention strength, just this incredible recovery ability is infinitely close to his second wife, Otsutsuki Kagaya. 100 Beast Kaido, to have such a title, it means that his ability should be Zoan. What kind of creature has such a strong self-healing ability? And his body seems to be wrong. His pupils narrowed slightly, remembering the strange feeling of kicking Kaido's back before. Dustless couldn't help but frown deeply. There is a strange feeling of softness in the hardness, and the strength seems to have been dissolved a lot. But this brat's strength is really terrifying. I'm afraid it's almost the same as Whitebeard. Thinking of the previous injury on his back, Kaido said with lingering fear. If it wasn't for his ability, Dustless's kick may have separated him forever. Very strong, but those who offend me must die without even a corpse. With a determined heart, Kaido labeled Dustless as a dead man. Now Dustless is wearing a mask, but from his body shape and his obviously immature voice, he is at most in his 20s. At such a young age, his strength has reached the peak, reaching the realm of perfection. If he is given a few more years of endless growth, who knows what realm Dustless will reach. Kakaka, the momentum of the whole body broke out without any concealment, like thunder, the ground burst open and turned into dust. The oppressive atmosphere spread, and the particles on the ground trembled slightly. Without thinking, Kaido used his life's unique skill, a strange beast head condensed in his hand. Chapter 4:10. Dustless's pupils narrowed slightly, with a little caution, his eyes focused on the unknown creature in Kaido's hand, and his eyebrows flashed with curiosity. The strange monster that came into view was very different, like a dragon or a tiger, with a lot of messy whiskers under the fluffy mouth, and it seemed to be given life. Whiz! As the sound of something breaking through the air faded, Kaido's broad figure disappeared once again. His speed was extremely fast. Go to hell. The hot blast roared down, and Kaido mercilessly blasted towards the back of Dustless's head. After failing once, he would no longer be careless and launched a fatal sneak attack on Dustless with all his strength. There is no morality in pirates, because this profession itself is synonymous with despicable. In the world of pirates, there is no market for the noble word morality. His speed is very fast, and he has improved a lot compared to before, so is his strength. Calmly staring at the front, the blazing beast fist blew Dustless's hair into a mess like grass. Just as he was about to finish off Dustless, the ground beside his feet suddenly burst open. A thick and solid green wood that was no different from a python strangely sprang out. Kaido, who was caught off guard, was simply thrown out. How much ability does this guy have? In the deep pit, Kaido stood up again, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and said gloomily. Caw caw caw. Suddenly, the ground burst open, and dense green trees stretched out from it, twisting their waists like countless large snakes, sweeping towards Kaido in a carpet-like manner. Look down on people to a certain extent. I am the strongest creature in the world, how can I be defeated by your rotten leaves? Seeing this, Kaido's face was full of anger. His body contained explosive power as he leaped up, and a dark red fist more than 10 meters high fell down with endless flames. Boom boom boom, with a loud roar, the green trees instantly turned into a sea of fire, and black smoke slowly burned, with an exaggerated height of more than 10 meters, covering the sky, and the whole void became dark. His boundless perception spread out, and the rapidly approaching black silhouette immediately came into view. Naive, Dustless turned his gaze to the right. His calm eyes shot out a cold light. He clenched his hand into a fist and punched towards the empty space on his right with all his strength. A powerful airwave left his hand and was about to swallow the flickering figure. Insignificant tricks, what can you do to me? Seeing this, Kaido only sneered again and again, his shriveled mouth forming a cruel smile. At the same time, his black iron fist also punched out an energy wave that was not weaker than the attack. Boom boom boom, the two fists that were filled with the power of destruction mixed together, and the air exploded with a bang. Blazing waves of air spread out like a colorless fire, and the flowing air was also evaporated. With a stern expression, Dustless's body emitted countless rays of light and disappeared without a trace. Got it. Seeing Dustless's body disappear, Kaido was not surprised. Instead, he was overjoyed. His murderous intent was boiling. He had suffered a loss before, and this time, he wanted to get it back. With a thought, the surface of Kaido's skin changed without leaving a trace. Boom. Dustless's body suddenly flashed, and the golden calf whistled up and directly hit Kaido's abdomen wrapped around armament haki, but the situation was different from before. Armament haki is to turn your body into an invisible hard armor, and the scene that appears on Kaido's body is incredible. Armament haki, as hard as steel, was as soft as rubber in an instant and directly caved in. Bastard, what the hell is this ability? Dustless was stunned. He tried to pull out his calf that was deep in Kaido's belly, but he helplessly found that it was no different from being stuck in a swamp. Even if he used all his strength, he could not move it at all. Why are you looking at me struggling? This is my ability. Do you think the name 100 Beasts Kaido is groundless? Don't get carried away with your success. Kaido sneered, looking down at Dustless. The contempt and viciousness in his eyes were obvious. This is what you get for provoking me. The black iron fist roared down and went straight to Dustless's head. Dustless's hands have been beaten again and again. Kaido's heart has long been filled with anger. Now that Dustless is captured by him, he naturally has to vent his anger and kill him. Pucci, the fist covered with armament haki directly hit Dustless's head, and a scarlet blood stain suddenly spilled in the air. Looking up, Dustless's stomach has sunk deep. Waste, you don't even know armament haki. The soft feeling from his fist made Kaido stunned. Wu Chen's level of character did not know how to be domineering. But soon, his astonishment turned into thousands of murderous intentions. He was actually defeated by a little brat who did not even know how to be domineering. Damn it. Bang bang bang, a series of iron fists with Kaido's anger roared down. The dense number of punches fell mercilessly like a rainstorm, all hitting Dustless's target. The whole person was badly mutilated, only a weak breath was left. Looking around, Dustless has turned into a pile of meat. I'll send you to heaven, you eyesore. Kaido's mouth twitched into a bitter smile, his eyes were dark and cold, the strength of his whole body was pushed to the limit, and he mercilessly punched the ground. Boom boom boom, the earth directly burst open, Dustless's body simply turned into dust and was permanently buried in the ground. Kaido did not look at Dustless's body, he simply flicked his sleeves and left. How is this possible? Before he could even take half a step, Kaido's lungs began to churn, and he uncontrollably spat out blood. His eyes were filled with fear, and an unprecedented stinging pain spread through his mind. It was as if he had been struck by lightning, and his spirit immediately withered. It seems that this game is over, a frivolous voice sounded. Kaido's face was full of confusion. The owner of the annoying voice should be directly smashed by him. Welcome to reality from the world of dreams. I'm sorry to let you experience this painful dream. Chapter 411. Kaido's spirit was extremely sluggish, his face was tired, his spirit was hit hard like never before, and the world in front of him suddenly changed. The black smoke burning in the sky disappeared, the ground was restored to its original state, and the traces of fighting disappeared as if nothing had happened. With his pupils enlarged, Kaido looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief. Everything was intact, but he himself was hit hard and it was difficult for him to stand up. Bastard, what kind of witchcraft did you use? Guy, whose body was unable to bear the heavy burden, knelt on the ground and roared at Dustless while gnashing his teeth. He and Dustless had clearly gone through a series of battles just now before completely annihilating him. Now it seems that nothing has happened. Do you often commit suicide? Is your head broken, Kaido? Big Mom's idiotic eyes looked at Kaido, with endless ridicule in his eyes. Obviously, nothing happened. This kid not only recovered from a serious illness, but also vomited blood in his mouth. If you want to avoid the battle, just say it. Why do you have to act so beautifully and realistically? Whitebeard also frowned as he looked at Kaido. From his confused eyes, it was not difficult to see that nothing had happened. Kaido was still alive and kicking a second ago, but the next second, his face was pale and his body was weak and half dead. Looking at the furious Kaido, Dustless looked at him hopelessly. After a long time, he sighed, and his eyes were filled with helplessness. It's normal that this old guy doesn't understand the principle of genjutsu. How is it possible? Is it possible that what happened just now was an illusion? Kaido's face was full of disbelief, and he had an impulse to go crazy. If it was the so-called illusion, then how could he explain his injuries? Bastard, doesn't that mean that I have been dancing in the world created by genjutsu? Kaido's eyes flashed with understanding, and he cursed. He was not an idiot, and he was also a top powerhouse who had experienced hundreds of battles. After a short period of confusion, he immediately understood the reason. Staring at Dustless's eyes, only those strange eyes gave him a feeling that they could swallow everything. Through his observation haki, he could clearly feel the evil refracted by those eyes, which was no different from the black holes in the universe. Unknowingly, he was trapped in them and could not extricate himself. Those eyes of yours. Despicable and shameless villain. His eyes turned scarlet, and Kaido's hatred for Dustless reached an unprecedented peak. He wished he could chop Dustless's body into thousands of pieces and burn his bones into ashes to vent the hatred in his heart. It was as if he had just woken up from a dream. Kaido understood that it was through those eyes that he had been tricked. From the beginning, he felt that there was something wrong with Dustless's eyes, but he didn't expect it to be this kind of ability. When he came back to his senses, it was already too late. Observation haki is really a good ability. Seeing Kaido's expression, Dustless's face sank slightly and he gently nodded. Observation haki makes the five senses sharper and can detect the breath of the surrounding creatures, emotional changes of haki, and can also be used to foresee and avoid danger. After reaching an unimaginable level of refinement, one could directly read the other party's mind. This was the so-called mind-reading technique. When did it start? Kaido asked unwillingly and yelled at Dustless, "Shameless villain, you won by such a mean means. If you have the guts, fight with me for 3 days and 3 nights." Whitebeard and Big Mom were not rookies, and they frowned. After Kaido's explanation, they immediately understood the reason. How can those eyes be so evil, and they seem to be full of negative emotions? The two frowned deeply and looked at the evil eyes. They also felt that their souls were being devoured and instinctively closed their eyes. Although they didn't know what the strange eye was for, there was no doubt that Kaido was killed by it. Both Bigu's mom and Whitebeard closed their eyes, hoping that they wouldn't follow in Kaido's footsteps. When? Stupid, do you need me to tell you in advance when I start? With a sarcastic smile on his face, Dustless said in a sarcastic tone, since you decided to challenge me, you have been silent in my illusion world, despicable. With a muffled groan, Kaido simply closed his eyes. His face was full of disdain, but his heart was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. The scene of the previous battle with him and Dustless were all illusions. He even used his ability and exposed his trump card to Dustless's vision. Despicable. I don't remember you pirates having any morality. For you, the winner is the king and the loser is the bandit. Didn't you say that before? Dustless looked at Kaido with a smile and asked. This guy is very shameless. He plotted against others and it's fair, but when it's his turn, it's despicable. Twisting words and forcing logic. His expression stiffened, and no matter how thick Kaido's face was, he couldn't help but blush. Then, he simply fell silent, and then directly lay on the ground, motionless, as if he was waiting for his punishment. Boom boom boom, the harsh roar resounded through the sky, and the violent explosion suddenly spread. The pirates who were watching the movements in the center of the island didn't even have time to escape before they were blown to pieces. Strangely, this impact didn't come from the surface of the sea, but from the bottom of the sea. In the cold and dark deep sea, you can clearly see more than a dozen large ships coated with film, like a sneaking beast. Although these ships are similar to marine battleships, there are obvious essential differences. The most eye-catching thing is that the white flag obviously belongs to the world government. These people obviously don't belong to the marine, they are all wearing black suits and sunglasses. Let's get rid of you all at once. On the bow of the ship, an old but steady and powerful voice sounded. Looking up, it was an old man with white eyes. This person was playing with a long sword with beautiful curves in his hand. Even though the sword was not out of its scabbard, one could feel the awe-inspiring and domineering aura from it. Chapter 4:12. The island where Whitebeard and others dueled trembled and trembled, suffering from the destruction of unknown explosives. The whole island was like a jumping bed, trembling non-stop. The entire sea region was filled with flames, and the suffocating black smoke lingered in the sky. Hundreds of kilometers away, the smoke could be seen. It was like a dark cloud that covered the entire sky. The scorching temperature boiled the surrounding seawater, and it was bubbling. It can be seen how big the fire was. The power of this explosion is obviously not something that ordinary explosives can have. The pirates are really useless. Compared with the United World Government, they are not even a little bit worse. Picking up the box containing the devil fruit, Dustless didn't care about Kaido's life or death. He had already guessed who caused the explosion. If you want to play, please continue. I have something to do, so I can't accompany you. Looking thoughtfully at the fire in the sky, Dustless smiled and said. He didn't say much and simply left. He had already expected what would happen next. Election of the Yonko, 4 emperors. Nonsense. It was obviously a heavenly network, and the examiners were not super pirates like Whitebeard and Kaido, but the entire world government. Only by escaping from their hands can you get the title of the emperor. In other words, it was a narrow escape. Only those who could slip out of the world government's hands would be recognized by the world. Then, like an emperor, they would stand at the top of the pyramid and look down on the world. Wait. An old voice came, and the tone was full of curiosity. It was not difficult to hear that there was no hostility. This is a good opportunity to be famous in the world. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If you can escape from the government safely, you can be as famous as the pirate King Roger. A seductive voice rang in everyone's ears. It was full of magic, pulling everyone's rationality. The person who spoke was Whitebeard, who had been silent all this time. Hearing this, Kaido and Big's mom, who were lying on the ground, breathed heavily. Their faces were full of fanatical yearning, and their eyes even fell into fantasy. The reason why they joined the pirate profession is that everyone has the same purpose. They want to be as famous as the pirate King Roger. They want their names to spread to all corners of the world. Even if they are spurned by the world, they will not hesitate to move towards this goal. If he didn't shock the world with his peerless martial arts, he would shock the world with his evil deeds. Yes, I haven't become the Pirate King yet, so how can I hate this little island? Under the influence of Whitebeard, Kaido said proudly, his whole body trembled with excitement, and his eyes were full of fascination. He didn't know what other people's purpose was, but he became a pirate to make a name for himself, and then use it as a benchmark to establish his own kingdom. Under Dustless's astonished gaze, Kaido, who had been ravaged by the illusion, actually stood up. Even though his forehead was covered in sweat, it could not stop his enthusiasm. This group of monsters seems to have a fighting value every time they mention the word Pirate King. The corners of his mouth twitched without a trace, and Dustless was speechless. In this world, the three words, One Piece, seemed to have a special meaning. Every time it was mentioned, even a cameo could break out again for the so-called pursuit of the dream. Famous. I don't have that kind of great dream. After looking at Whitebeard for a while, Wu Qin said indifferently. He just glanced at Whitebeard and then turned around to leave. His indifferent tone made them unable to recover from their shock. What's more, I didn't say that I was a pirate, and the life of a fugitive is not suitable for me. Dustless's footsteps suddenly stopped, revealing half of his face, and his plain eyes became as sharp as an eagle's. Dustless said, not only that, we may be enemies in the future. You may be prosperous, see you next time. After that, Dustless's body lost its texture, and his body turned into countless photons, and swept straight towards the distant sky. With a roaring sound, the whole person completely disappeared, and the clouds in the depths of the sky also disappeared. What a strange person, Dustless smacked his lips and was puzzled, then he shook his head and looked at the explosions around the island attentively. He also looked at the devil fruit that Dustless took away. If they can pass this exam of the world government, their future days will naturally be unstoppable. If they can't, they will all be annihilated like withered leaves. This is a big gamble, but the life of a pirate is gambling on fate. Whitebeard, who had been gambling for decades, appeared to be calm and collected. He had experienced too many ups and downs. The same is true for Bigu's mom and Kaido. They have been unstoppable all their lives, and these battles can't scare them. Above the cloudless sky, a figure stood in the sky. He took off the mask he had been wearing, revealing a handsome face. His shining eyes were as bright as stars, and he looked energetic. It's strange that the devil fruit grew up like this. I'm afraid that such an ultimate devil fruit is unique in the world, and there is no other similar existence. Throwing away the iron box in his hand, Dustless looked at the dark red fruit, carved with flowers and trees, and a floating dragon, and shook his head speechlessly. After observing for a while, he didn't see any difference. Kamui. His pupils twisted, and ripples splashed in the void, forming a small vortex, and the devil fruit in Dustless's hand was also sucked in and stored in a different dimension space. The world government is so cruel, they want to wipe out all the pirates at once. His pupils narrowed slightly, revealing a thoughtful look. The flames around the island were obviously wrong. The power was far stronger than normal gunpowder, and there was a faint purple halo in it. I seem to have seen these things. There was a flash of light in his mind, and Dustless thought of some kind of explosive that was comparable to ancient weapons. Chapter 413. Dustless's face was heavy. He was not worried about the life and death of Whitebeard and the others. Not to mention them, even if the whole world was blown up along with the annihilation, he would not feel sad. People are selfish, especially Dushless, who only has himself in his eyes, is even more selfish. If you want him to save people, you must first pay a price that can move his cold heart. Power rock. I didn't think that in order to deal with these big pirates, even these things are used at all costs, and they are using power rock on such a large scale. Frowning, Dustless was surprised. Power rock is a special existence comparable to ancient weapons. When it comes into contact with the air, it will cause a violent explosion with amazing power. It is comparable to ancient weapons, which indirectly means that it has the power to destroy the world, and it also silently shows that using this ultimate weapon requires the approval of a higher-level person. Although power rock can be used by Marines, such a large-scale use is obviously approved by the higher-ups. Gorosei, 5 Elder Stars, and Marines Fleet Admiral have worked hard to deal with these big pirates. With a sigh, Dustless can be 100% sure that it is definitely approved by Marine Fleet Admiral or Gorosei, 5 Elder Stars. Power rock is not an ordinary explosive. When its power reaches a certain level, it can blow up an island. Large-scale use must be approved by Marines higher-ups or the world government. Well, even though there is a distance of 10,000 meters from the ground, everything that happens on the island can't escape Dustless's eyes. The sponge around the entire island exploded violently and the splashing waves were hundreds of meters high. Did they deliberately let them on the island? With a touch of curiosity in his eyes, Dustless suspiciously said. The explosion just exploded around the island, blocking the pirates' retreat and trying to expel them to the island. Countless pirates can be seen scrambling to abandon their ships and flee to the center of the island. Only there is peace for the time being. Obviously, it is intentional. This is interesting. No, is it possible that they are going to? His face suddenly stiffened. Dustless's pupils stared at the exploding sea below. It is obvious that they want to force all the pirates to the island and then take the opportunity to annihilate them in one fell swoop. After recalling the unique structure of the island, Dustless immediately understood the government's actions. This island was different from other islands. The central area was a dormant volcano that had been erupting for hundreds of years. The lava that flowed into the sea was deposited over time, forming the present island. Although it was an extinct volcano, once it was hit by a powerful force, it would erupt again. The heart of snakes and scorpions. No wonder they didn't dare to come from the sea with great fanfare. Instead, they secretly came from the bottom of the sea. They actually have such a vicious plan. Are they trying to use the power of the kinetic rock to reawaken the volcano? The power of nature was irresistible. It was powerful enough to destroy all living things. Even if it was a small volcanic eruption, it still had the power to destroy everything in the world. Especially since this was an island surrounded by the sea, there was no way to escape. Once the volcano erupted, it was easy to imagine what kind of predicament it would be. The world government and the marine are really not good things. Shaking his head, Dustless's face was dead. There were still many local aborigines on this island. Once the volcano erupted again, they would naturally be unable to avoid the blazing torrent and would inevitably become the burial goods of these pirates. The Devil's Slaughter order can be launched, but it doesn't matter if a lot of aborigines are buried with them. What's more, on this island where pirates gather, the local islanders did not report the traces of pirates to the government. To some extent, they are already in cahoots with the pirates. Under the deep sea, many humans can be clearly seen on the bottom of the sea. These people are covered with circular bubbles and can easily swim to the bottom of the sea. It's actually the same principle as the coated ship. Fleet Admiral, the installation of the kinetic rock has been completed. As long as it is possible, it can explode at any time. A Marine lieutenant commander reported to the tall man. His face was full of fear, and his forehead was sweating. The people in front of him were all powerful figures, and their strength stood at the top of the world. As long as they stomped their feet, the whole world would tremble. Good job, continue to install the kinetic rock, the power must reach the dose to awaken the whole volcano. With his hands in front of him, Fleet Admiral Kong said with an awe-inspiring look. For those pirates, whether big pirates or small pirates, he hated them so much that he couldn't wait to get rid of them. Being burned to death by the eruption of the hot lava, although the method is inhumane, but thinking of what these pirates did, Fleet Admiral quickly felt relieved and the guilt in his heart disappeared. Fleet Admiral, the pirates are hateful and should be killed, but the ordinary people on the island have nothing to do with them. If we do this, it will make people feel disappointed and sorry for those who live at the bottom and silently support the marine. The pirates are hateful, but they are innocent. A voice sounded. Looking up, it was Z with purple hair. Not only him, but the Marine's top officials also joined this operation. Hero Garp, Warring States, and the future 3 admirals, and many rear admirals and vice admirals were clearly visible. These people had a look on their faces. They are righteous Marines, not demons who involve ordinary people in order to win. If so, they are not worthy of the word righteous on their cloak. Hearing this, Fleet Admiral's eyes flashed with hesitation. When he was about to speak, a cold sneer came. Pedantic, what is righteous? What is a demon? Completely eradicating these black sheep is righteous. Letting them escape and harm the world is a demon. An old man with a katana suddenly appeared. His cold voice resounded throughout the coated ship with endless contempt. However, even the Fleet Admiral and the admirals were dissatisfied, but they didn't refute. It can be seen how high the status of the bald old man with the katana was. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.